Hey everybody, it's Drew with Southern Yankee Innovations, and today I'm going to do a little review on that chicken plucker. Again, I paid $2.99 for it at Lowe's. It was on sale. It's definitely nothing fancy, and it's definitely one of the smaller ones, but let's give it a shot. So I'd already dispatched the bird. It was a barred rock rooster. Scalded him at 160 to 170 degrees. Try to do about 10 seconds, give or take, depending on how long it takes to start loosening up the feathers. You gotta be careful going too long so you don't cook them. And then we'll put them in the plucker. Once you pull the bird out, it's best to have all this done before. Turn your water on, and then turn on the motor. So I learned that with the larger birds, if you actually cut the feet off from, I guess you'd say, the knee joint down, it does help keep them from getting tangled up. In the manual it claims 30 seconds you'll have a clean bird. I felt like every time I used it that one side wouldn't get quite as clean as what it should be. However, once I did start cutting the feet off, it did help. The operator's manual claims it's good for up to a 6-pound bird. It may do it, but I feel like it's going to take a lot longer than 30 seconds. This here is probably processed going to be maybe 3.5 pounds. He wasn't a very big bird. I do think with a Cornish cross it may work a little better because they're not quite as long as this one is. I don't recommend sticking your hand in there while it's spinning. Obviously I did several times. I do think it plucks better than trying to hand pluck, however it's definitely not perfect by any means. I bought this table at Tractor Supply last year. I think it was like $100. It's got that built-in sink on the end, and then I like a little workspace. So what I'll use is I'll put a splitter on the plucker, and then I'll run another section of hose over to the sink. That way I can keep everything clean. If, say, for some reason I hit the intestines, I can rinse it right off there. And then I just use the side table to cut off the feet, the wingtips, and then gut the bird. This here was like a mid-sized bird. It definitely did much better in the plucker. So one of the issues that I had with the plucker was that when the feathers of the bird fall off, there's a discharge chute on the underside where that blue bucket is, but there's not enough room underneath the bottom turntable so that the feathers can come out. So it actually started to plug up. I didn't realize that on my first bird or my second bird. When I went to do the third one, I really noticed the bucket wasn't as full as what it should have been. So you actually have to make sure that the machine is shut off. You have to reach your hand up in there and try to get a lot of the feathers out. It also will reduce some of the water that overflows onto like the side here where the engine or the motor is. And I don't really know a good way to fix it yet. I'm still looking into that. You can see the birds keep getting tangled with their feet. Their feet will get wedged in between that bottom plate and then the sides. This bird was smaller, however, it was much more efficient at spinning inside the plucker. Came out much cleaner, a lot less to try to just finish off. This bird here is a bantam, so much smaller. That worked very well. I had several eggs that I hatched from the spring, and I ended up with 5 bantam roosters and 2 hens. So I had to get rid of them, and nobody wanted them, so they just ended up in the freezer. You can see the bantam didn't get stuck nearly as much as the other birds did. So I'm assuming, with this being a smaller plucker, that has a lot to do with it. But the bird I did after this, I cut the feet off and it worked much better. So when I pull it out, you'll see it's still not perfect by any means, but it's definitely much more efficient and faster than trying to pluck it by hand. Most of the time when I'm doing processing chickens, I'm by myself, so this will be definitely a good tool to have. And then here you'll be able to see all the feathers that get rammed along the outside and underneath that bottom plate. I was just taking my fingers and spinning it to get the feathers back to the discharge chute. And I bet you I did that for probably 15 minutes, just pulling feathers out. My quick thoughts are to open it up and make it just larger, and hopefully that'll allow for the feathers to discharge better. So for the first time using it for the price I paid, I would recommend it so far for smaller operations. If you're going to do much of it, I think I would get something a little bigger, but we'll see how it does in the future. Thanks for watching.